Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Kishore Davle and welcome to second video on quality. Today we are going to discuss about quality assurance. I have divided this presentation in three sections. Section A covers various tools that are widely used for quality assurance. Section B talks about ISO 9000 series and Section C talks about ISO 14000 series. Let's start with Section A. In the previous video, we had seen that Total Quality Management (TQM) is a set of systematic activities carried out by the entire organization to effectively and efficiently achieve its objectives so as to improve products and services to meet customers' needs and expectations. It is a method by which everyone in an organization, not only employees but also management, is committed to implement and maintain the continuous improvement of the product and services. It is a management philosophy to integrate all the functions within the organization, that is planning, sales, marketing, production, design, finance, etc., to meet the customer's need and expectations and also to achieve the set goals. Many of the recent day quality management systems are evolved based on TQM. To illustrate, here are 8 principles of TQM. First, customer focus. The success of the organization depends on the customer satisfaction. While all the actions in the organization, let's say designing, training, cost saving, etc., are aimed to fulfill the customer needs and expectations. Second, total employee involvement. All employees in the organization needs to be involved to achieve the organization goals and also customer needs. Third, centered on processes. Process mindset is a fundamental aspect of TQM. Systematic process is a series of internal steps that converts the input to quality output which are delivered to the customers. Hence, process needs to be defined, monitored and controlled to meet the customer requirements. Fourth, integrated business processes. Surely it is impossible to achieve the excellence in the business without quality culture in the organization. Thus, all the departments or functions must be integrated to achieve business goals. Fifth, systematic strategic approach. The important aspect of quality management system is a systematic strategic approach to achieve the organizational mission, vision and also goals. Sixth, continual improvement. The most focus element in TQM is continual improvement. In other words, continual improvement is to monitor and improve the process for better outcomes. Seventh, fact-based decisions. For any organization, it is necessary to have performance measure systems in place to know how far it meets the set targets. In other words, organization needs to continually monitor the process performance and take appropriate actions based on the data. 8th, communication. It is impossible to maintain TQM without effective communication to every level of employee in the department. The effective communication is important to keep the morale of the employees. TQM tools helps organization to identify, analyze quality issues through data collection, analyzing data, identification of root cause, and measuring results. The 7 prominent tools used in TQM are check sheet, fishbone diagram, flowchart, Pareto chart, histogram, scatter diagram, and control charts. Let's analyze the first TQM tool, that is checklist. The check sheet or the checklist is a form or a document used to collect data in real time at the location where the data is generated. The data it captures can be quantitative or qualitative in nature. When the information is quantitative, the check sheet is sometimes called as a tally sheet. Its purpose is to provide a structured way to collect quality related data as a rough means for accessing a process or as an input to other analysis. The defining characteristics of a checklist is that data are recorded by making marks, that is checks, on it. A typical check sheet is divided into regions and marks are made in different regions having different significance. Data are read by observing the location and the number of marks on the sheet. Check sheets typically employ a heading that answers the 5 W's. First, who filled out the check sheet. Second, what was collected, that is what each check represents, and identifying batch or lot number. Third, where the collection took place, that is location, facility, room, apparatus, etc. Fourth, when the collection took place, that is hour, shift, day of the week, etc. And lastly, why the data was collected. There are 5 uses of check sheet in quality assurance. First, to check the shape of the probability distribution of a process. Second, to quantify defects by type. Third, to quantify defects by location. Fourth, to quantify defects by cause, machine, workers, etc. And last, to keep track of the completion of the steps in a multi-step procedure. In other words, as a checklist. Fishbone diagrams, also called as Ishikawa diagrams or cause and effect diagrams, are causal diagrams created by K. Ishikawa that shows the causes of a specific event. Common uses of Ishikawa diagram are product design and quality defects prevention to identify potential factors causing an overall effect. Each cause or reason for imperfection is a source of variation. Causes are usually grouped into major categories to identify and classify the sources of variation. Its purpose is to break down in successive layers of details the root causes that potentially contribute to a particular effect. Sample Ishikawa diagram shows the causes contributing to the problem. The defect is shown as the fish's head facing to the right, with the causes extending to the left as fish bones, the ribs branching off the backbone for the major causes, with sub-branches of root causes to as many levels as required. Ishikawa diagrams were popularized in 1960s by K. Ishikawa, who pioneered quality management processes in the Kawasaki shipyards, and in the process became one of the founding fathers of modern management. The basic concept was first used in 1920s and is considered one of the 7 basic tools of quality control. It is known as fishbone diagram because of its shape, similar to the side view of fish skeleton. Mazda Motors famously used an Ishikawa diagram in the development of the Miata MX-5 sports car. Following are the advantages of using this quality control tool. First, highly visual brainstorming tool which can spark further examples of root causes. Second, quickly identify if the root cause is found multiple times in the same or different causal tree. 3. Allows one to see all causes simultaneously. And fourth, good visualization for presenting issues to stakeholders. Similarly, there are some disadvantages, and those are: first, complex defects might yield a lot of causes which might become visually clustering. Second, interrelationships between causes are not easily identifiable. A flowchart is a type of diagram that represents a workflow or process. A flowchart can also be defined as diagrammatic representation of an algorithm, a step-by-step approach to solving a task. The flowchart shows the steps as a box of various kinds and their order by connecting the boxes with arrows. This diagrammatic representation illustrates a solution model to a given problem. Flowcharts are used in analyzing, designing, documenting, or managing a process or program in various fields. Flowcharts are used in designing and documenting simple processes or programs. Like other types of diagrams, they help visualize what is going on and thereby help understand a process, and perhaps also find less obvious features within the process, like flaws and bottlenecks. There are different types of flowcharts. Each type has its own set of boxes and notions. The 2 most common types of boxes in the flowcharts are a processing step, usually called activity and denoted as a rectangular box. Second, a decision, usually denoted as a diamond. A flowchart is described as cross-functional when the chart is divided into different vertical and horizontal parts to describe the control of different organizational units. A symbol appearing in a particular part is within the control of that organizational unit. A cross-functional flowchart allows the author to correctly locate the responsibility for performing an action or making a decision, and to show the responsibility of each organizational unit for different parts of a single process. Flowcharts can be modeled from the perspective of different user groups such as managers, system analysts, and clerks, and that there are four general types. First, document flowchart, showing controls over document flow through a system. Second, data flowcharts, showing controls over data flow in a system. Third, system flowchart, showing controls at the physical or resource level. And fourth, program flowchart, showing the control in program within a system. The American National Standards Institute, that is ANSI, set standards for flowcharts and their symbols in 1960s. The International Organization for Standardization, that is ISO, adopted the ANSI symbols in 1970s. Generally, flowcharts flow from top to bottom and left to right. An arrowhead shows the process's order of operation, a line coming from one symbol and pointing to another. Arrowheads are added if the flow is not standard, that is top to bottom, left to right. Oval or rounded rectangles indicate the beginning and ending of a sub-process. They usually contain the word start or end, or another phrase signaling the start or end of a process such as submit inquiry or receive product, etc. Rectangle represents a set of operations that changes values, forms, or location of data. A parallelogram indicates the process of inputting and outputting data, as in entering data or displaying results. Diamond or rhombus shows a conditional operation that determines which one of the two paths the program will take. The operation is commonly a yes-no question or true-false statement. A Pareto chart is a type of chart that contains both bars and a line graph, where individual values are represented in descending orders by the bars and the cumulative total is represented by the lines. The chart is named after Pareto principle, which in turn derived its name from Vilfredo Pareto, a noted Italian economist. The Pareto principle suggests the most effects come from the relatively few causes. In quantitative terms, 80% of the problem come from 20% of the causes. Therefore, effort aimed at right 20% can solve 80% of the problems. Double or back-to-back Pareto charts can be used to compare before and after situations. It is generally used to decide where to apply initial efforts to maximize effect. The purpose of such graph is to access the most frequently occurring defect by the category. Simple example of a Pareto chart using hypothetical data showing the relative frequency of the reason for arriving late at the work is depicted in the figure. The left vertical axis is the frequency of occurrence, but it can alternatively represent cost or another important unit for the measure. The right vertical axis is the cumulative percentage of the total number of occurrences, or total cost, or total of the particular unit of measure. Because the values are in descending orders, the cumulative function is a concave function. To take the example below, in order to lower the amount of late arrivals by 78%, it is sufficient to solve the first three issues. The purpose of Pareto chart is to highlight the most important among a typically large set of factors. In quality control, it often represents the most common sources of defects, the highest occurring type of defects, or the most frequent reasons for customer complaints, and so on. A histogram is an approximate representation of the distribution of numerical or categorical data. It was first introduced by Carl Pearson. To construct a histogram, the first step is to bin or bucket the range of values. That is, divide the entire range of values into series of intervals and then count how many values fall into each interval. The bins are usually specified as consecutive, non-overlapping intervals of a variable. The bins or the intervals must be adjacent and are often but not required to be of equal size. The purpose of this type of graph is to roughly access the probability distribution of a given variable by depicting the frequencies of observations occurring in certain ranges of values. As the adjacent bins leave no gaps, the rectangles of the histogram touch each other to indicate that the original variable is continuous. Histograms give a rough sense of density of the underlying distribution of the data and often for density estimation. The total area of a histogram used for a probability density is always normalized to 1. If the length of the intervals on the x-axis are all 1, then a histogram is identical to a relative frequency plot. Histograms are sometimes confused with bar charts. A histogram is used for continuous data where the bins represent ranges of data, while a bar chart is a plot of categorical values. Some authors recommend that bar charts have gaps between the rectangles to clarify the distinction. A scatter plot, also called as scatter graph, scatter chart, scattergram, or scatter diagram, is a type of a plot or mathematical diagram using Cartesian coordinates to display the values for typically two variables for a set of data. If the points are coded, that is colored, shape, size are different, one additional variable can be displayed. The data are displayed as a collection of points, each having the value of one variable determining the position on the horizontal axis and the value of the other variable determining the position on the vertical axis. The purpose of a scatter plot is to identify the type of relationship, if any, between two quantitative variables. A scatter plot can be used either when one continuous variable, that is under the control of the experimenter, and the other depends on it, or when both continuous variables are independent. If a parameter exists that is systematically incremented or decremented by the other, it is called control parameter or independent variable and is customarily plotted along the horizontal axis. The measured or the dependent variable is customarily plotted along the vertical axis. If no dependent variable exists, either type of variable can be plotted on either axis, and a scatter plot will illustrate only a degree of correlation, not causation between the two variables. A scatter plot can suggest various kinds of correlationships between variables with a certain confidence interval. For example, weight and height. Weight would be on y-axis and height would be on x-axis. Correlationships may be positive, that is rising, negative, that is falling, or null, uncorrelated. If the pattern of dots slopes from lower left to upper right, it indicates a positive correlationship between the variables being studied. If the pattern of dots slopes from upper left to the lower right, it indicates a negative correlation. A line of best fit, alternatively called as a trend line, can be drawn in order to study the relationship between the variables. An equation for the correlation between the variables can be determined by established best fit procedures. For a linear correlation, the best fit procedure is known as linear regression, and it usually generates a correct solution in a finite time. No universal best fit procedure is guaranteed to generate a correct solution for an arbitrary relationship. A scatter plot is also very useful when we wish to study how two comparable datasets agree to show non-linear relationship between variables. Control charts, also known as process behavior charts, are a statistical process control tool used to determine if a manufacturing or business process is in a state of control. It is more appropriate to say that the control charts are graphical device for statistical process monitoring (SPM). Traditional control charts are mostly designed to monitor process parameters when underlying form of the process distributions are known. However, more advanced techniques are available in the 21st century where incoming data streaming can be monitored even without any knowledge of the underlying process distributions. Distribution-free control charts are becoming increasingly popular. The purpose of control charts is to allow simple detection of events that are indicative of actual process change. This simple decision can be difficult where the process characteristics is continuously varying. The control chart provides statistically objective criteria of change. When change is detected and considered good, its cause should be identified and possibly become the new way of working. Where the change is bad, then its cause should be identified and eliminated. The purpose in adding warning limits or subdividing the control charts into zones is to provide early notification if something is amiss. Instead of immediately launching a process improvement effort to determine whether special causes are present, the quality engineer may temporarily increase the rate at which the samples are taken from the process output until it is clear that the process is truly in control.
Note that with 3 sigma limits, common cause variations result in signal less than once out of every 22 points for skewed processes and about once in every 370 points for normally distributed processes. The 2 sigma warning levels will be reached about once in every 22 plotted points in normally distributed data. If analysis of control chart indicates that the process is currently under control, that is stable, with variation only coming from sources common to the process, then no correction or changes to the process control parameters are needed or desired. In addition, data from the process can be used to predict the future performance of the process. If the chart indicates that the monitored process is not in control, analysis of the chart can help determine the sources of the variation. If a process that is stable but operating outside desired specification or desired limits, like for example scrap rate may be in statistical control but above desired limits, needs to be improved through a deliberate effort to understand the causes of current performance and fundamentally improve the process. Typically, control charts are used for time series data, though they can be used for data that have logical comparability. For example, you want to compare samples that were taken all at the same time or performance of different individuals. However, the type of chart used to do this requires a special consideration. A control chart consists of points representing a statistic of measurements of a quality characteristic in sample taken from process at different times. The statistics can be a mean, a range, proportion, etc. The mean of these statistics using all samples is calculated. For example, the mean of means, means of ranges, means of proportions, etc. A center line is drawn at the value of the mean of the statistics. The standard deviation of the statistics is also calculated using all the samples. Upper and lower control limits, sometimes also called as natural process limits, are indicated, and that represent the threshold at which the process output is considered statistically unlikely and are drawn typically at 3 standard deviation from the center line. The chart may have other optional features including upper and lower warning or control limits drawn as separate lines, typically 2 standard deviations from above and below the center line, divisions into zones with addition of rules governing frequencies of observations in each zone. It may also include annotations with events of interest as determined by a quality engineer in charge of the process's quality. It may also include action on special causes. If the process is in control and the process statistic is normal, 99.73% of all points will fall between the control limits. Any observations outside the limits or systematic patterns within suggest the introduction of new and likely unanticipated source of variation known as special cause variations. Since increased variation means increased quality cost, a control chart signaling the presence of special cause requires immediate investigation. Till now we have seen the 7 tools of TQM which are often used to ensure quality. However, apart from these tools, there are other practices like QFD, quality circles, Kaizen, Six Sigma, 5S, etc. which are followed to make sure that the quality is of high standard and is continuously improved. QFD stands for Quality Function Deployment. Quality Function Deployment is a method developed in Japan beginning in 1966 to help transform the voice of customer into engineering characteristics of a product. Quality function deployment is a structured approach to defining customer needs or requirements and translating them into specific plans to produce products to meet those needs. The voice of customer is a term to describe these stated and unstated customer needs or requirements. The House of Quality, a part of QFD, is the basic design tool of quality function deployment. It identifies and classifies customer desires, identifies the importance of those desires, identifies engineering characteristics which may be relevant to those desires, correlates the two, allows for verification of those correlations, and then assigns objectives and priorities for the system requirements. This process can be applied at any system composition level. in the design of a product and can allow for assessment of different abstractions of a system. The voice of customer or the customer desires are the what in the house of quality. The engineering characteristics relevant to these customer desire or the design parameter are the how in the house of quality. The matrix form include a triangular shape at the top, resembles a house, and thus the name house of quality. Let's see how the house of quality is constructed. The output of the house of quality is generally a matrix with customer desires on one dimension and correlated system parameters or the design parameters on the other dimension. The customer desire or requirements are usually placed on the left hand side as can be seen in the figure. The cells of the matrix table are filled with weights assigned to the customer requirement where those characteristics are affected by the system parameters across the top of the matrix. At the bottom of the matrix, the column is summed, which allows for system characteristics to be weighed according to the customer characteristics. System parameters not correlated to the customer requirements may be unnecessary to the system design. They are kept empty in the matrix column. In the figure, you can see an example of house of quality constructed for Intel mobile phone camera. The customer requirements like resolution, camera flash, focus, etc. are placed on the left hand side. The technical requirements to fulfill these customers' requirements are placed below the roof. Technical requirements in this example include front camera, back camera, ISPs, cores, battery size, etc. The matrix in the roof shows the correlationship between the technical requirements. For example, there is a strong positive correlation between front camera and number of ISPs. There is a strong negative correlation between number of ISPs and battery size. Also, there is a positive correlation between front camera and core frequency, and there is a negative correlation between back camera and battery size. Customer priority for this requirement is placed in a column next to customer requirement. For example, in the figure, the maximum resolution of camera is the first priority for the customer, whereas autofocus feature in the camera is sixth priority. The relationship matrix is placed between customer requirement and technical requirement. Here we can see that there is a positive relationship between maximum resolution of the camera and back camera, ISP frequency, GPU frequency and memory frequency. There is a weak relationship between camera peripheral and front camera, whereas there is a negative relationship between face detection and battery size. On the right hand side, we can see how the Intel camera fares when compared with the competitors, and the technical assessment is placed at the bottom of the house of quality. QFD is applied in wide variety of applications, namely product design, manufacturing, production, engineering, research and development, information technology, support, testing, system organizations, packaging and logistics, procurement, marketing, sales and services, etc. Quality circles were originally described by W. Edward Deming in 1950s. Deming praised Toyota as an example of this practice. The idea was later formalized across Japan in 1962 and expanded by others such as Kei Ishikawa. A quality circle or quality control circle is a group of workers who do the same or similar work, who meet regularly to identify, analyze, and solve work-related problems. It consists of minimum 3 members, normally small in size. The group is usually led by a supervisor or manager and presents its solution to the management. Where possible, workers implement the solutions themselves in order to improve the performance of the organization and motivate employees. Typical topics for the attention of quality circles are improving occupational safety and health, improving product design, and improving in the workplace and manufacturing processes. The term quality circles was most accessibly defined by Professor Kei Ishikawa in his 1985 handbook, What is Total Quality Control? The Japanese Way, and it was circulated throughout Japanese industry by Union of Japanese Scientists and Engineers. Quality circles are typically more formal groups. They meet regularly on company time and are trained by a competent person, usually designated as facilitator, who may be employee and industrial relationship specialists trained in human factors and the basic skills of problem identification, information gathering and analysis, basic statistics, and solution generation. Quality circles are generally free to select any topic they wish. There are 7 conditions as mentioned below for the successful implementation of quality circles. First, quality circles must be staffed entirely by volunteers. Second, each participant should be representative of a different functional activity. The problem to be addressed should be chosen by the circle and not by the management, and the choice should be honored even if it does not visibly lead to a management goal. Fourth, management must be supportive of the circle and fund it appropriately. Fifth, circle members must receive appropriate training in problem solving. Sixth, the circle must choose its own leader from within its own members. And seventh, management should appoint a manager as a mentor of the team, charged with helping the members of the circle achieve their objectives. But this person must not manage the circle. Kaizen is a concept referring to business activities that continuously improve all functions and involve all employees from the CEO to the assembly line workers. Kaizen is a Sino-Japanese word for improvement. Kaizen also applies to the processes such as purchasing and logistics that crosses organizational boundaries into supply chain. By improving standardized programs and processes, Kaizen aims to eliminate waste. Kaizen was first practiced in Japanese business after World War II, influenced in part by American business and quality management teachers, and most notably as a part of the Toyota Way. It has since spread throughout the world and has been applied to environments outside the business and productivity. The Japanese word Kaizen means change for the better. In the Japanese dictionary and in everyday use, the word refers to any improvement, one time or continuous, large or small, in the same sense as the English word improvement. Let's try to understand why Kaizen is required. Throughout most companies today, there is a consistent drive to reduce waste and increase quality. The benefits of Kaizen can reach far beyond reducing waste or increasing quality. Many different quality tools can get you that far. Kaizen can take you further. Properly implemented Kaizen can achieve positive results in various ways at all organizational levels. The advantage of implementing Kaizen include: first, utilization of resources. Kaizen focuses on improving the product through utilization of existing resources to achieve incremental and continuous improvement. Kaizen is centered around making small changes instead of relying on massive changes or expensive equipment investments to gain improvement. Second, increased efficiency. Central to Kaizen methodology is the importance of providing a well-planned work area, eliminating unnecessary movements or operations, and proper training for all employees. Third, employee satisfaction. Kaizen is about creating an atmosphere of teamwork and change where new ideas are encouraged. Team members are asked to examine the processes and make suggestions for improvement. Fourth, safety improvements. A safer work environment is another benefit of Kaizen. The safety improvements occur when new ideas to clean up and organize the work area are developed and implemented. There are two major ways of how Kaizen can be implemented. First is daily Kaizen and second is an Kaizen event. Daily Kaizen requires that the team meet on regular basis, which would be daily or weekly. The team should discuss suggestions for improvement along with potential solutions for any issues encountered since the last meeting. Everyone on the team should participate and provide input to the meeting. You may choose to hold a special meeting or incorporate the discussion into a regularly occurring meetings. If possible, hold the meeting at the place where the process is occurring. The Kaizen event approach is different from that of a daily approach, although the goal is the same, that is improvement of the process. A Kaizen event can generally be described as a few days or week-long team-based rapid improvement activity. Thus, there is a definite start and stop to the Kaizen events. The event requires additional planning with goals to implementing a more substantial change or improvement over the course of few days or weeks. In summary, the goal of Kaizen is gradual continuous improvement. Implementing Kaizen and developing a mindset of continuous improvement within an organization is also gradual and should be continuous. The first step is to educate your workforce. Provide your teams with the proper Kaizen training, tools, and system structure to allow them to succeed. Coach your employees and encourage them to become aware of problems and look for the ways to improve every day. Throughout training and completion of initial process review or Kaizen events, the team members likely will begin to take mental ownership of their individual processes. When this transfer of ownership takes place, the worker begin to think about possible improvements as their responsibility. Six Sigma is a set of techniques and tools for process improvement. It was introduced by American engineer Bill Smith while working at Motorola in 1986. A Six Sigma process is one in which 99.99966% of all opportunities or long-term defect levels below 3.4 defects per million opportunities to produce some features of a part are statistically expected to be free of defect. Six Sigma strategies seek to improve the quality of the output of a process by identifying and removing the causes of defects and minimizing impact variability in manufacturing and business processes. It uses a set of quality management methods, mainly empirical statistical methods, and creates a special infrastructure of people within the organization who are expert in these methods. Each Six Sigma project carried out within an organization follows a defined sequence of steps and has specific value targets. For example, reduce process cycle time, reduce pollution, reduce costs, increase customer satisfaction, increase profits, etc. Features that set Six Sigma apart from previous quality improvement initiatives include: first, a clear focus on achieving measurable and quantifiable financial returns from any Six Sigma project. Second, an increased emphasis on strong and passionate management, leadership, and support. And third, a clear commitment to make decisions on the basis of verifiable data and statistical methods rather than assumptions and guesswork. Lean management and Six Sigma are two concepts which share similar methodologies and tools. Both programs are Japanese influenced, but they are two different programs. Lean management is focused on eliminating waste using a set of proven standardized tools and methodologies that target organizational efficiencies while integrating a performance improvement system utilized by everyone. While Six Sigma's focus is on eliminating defects and reducing variation. Both systems are driven by data, though Six Sigma is much more dependent and reliant on accurate data. Six Sigma projects follow two project methodologies inspired by Deming's Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. These methodologies, composed of 5 phases each, bear acronyms DMAC and DMADV. DMAC is used for projects aimed at improving an existing business process, whereas DMADV is used for projects aimed at creating new product or process designs. The DMAC project methodology has 5 phases. First, define the system, the voice of customer and the requirements, and the project goals specifically. Second, measure key aspects of current process and collect relevant data. Calculate the as-is process capability. Third, analyze the data to investigate and verify cause and effect relationships. Determine what relationships are and attempt to ensure that all factors have been considered. Seek out root cause of the defect under investigation. Fourth, improve or optimize the current process based upon data analysis using techniques such as design of experiments, Poga-Yoke, or mistake proofing, and standard work to create a new future state process. Set up pilot runs to establish process capability. And finally, fifth, control the future state process to ensure that any deviation from the target are corrected before they result in defects. Implement control systems such as statistical process control, production boards, visual workplaces, and continuously monitor the process. This process is repeated until the desired quality level is obtained. The DMADV project methodology, known as DFSS, that is Design for Six Sigma, features 5 phases. First, define design goals that are consistent with customer demands and enterprise strategy. Second, measure and identify CTQs. CTQs stand for characteristics that are critical to quality. Third, analyze to develop and design alternatives. Fourth, Design an improved alternative best suited for analysis in previous step. And fifth, verify the design, set up pilot runs, implement the production process and hand it over to the process owner. The last tool in this section that we will be discussing today is 5S. 5S is a workplace organization method that uses a list of 5 Japanese words as displayed on the screen. These have been translated as sort, set in order, shine, standardize and sustain. The list describes how to organize a workspace for efficiency and effectiveness by identifying and sorting the items used, maintaining the area and items, and sustaining the new order. The decision-making process usually comes from a dialogue about standardization, which builds understanding among employees of how they should do the work. In some quarters, 5S has become 6S, the sixth element being safety. 5S was developed in Japan and was identified as one of the techniques that enable just-in-time manufacturing. The first S stands for sort. It means sorting through all items in a location and removing all unnecessary items from the location. The goals in this stage are: first, reduce time loss looking for an item by reducing the number of items. Reduce the chance of distraction by unnecessary items. Third, simplify inspection. Fourth, increase the amount of available useful space. And fifth, increase safety by eliminating obstacles. In order to implement this, following steps are followed. First, check all items in a location and evaluate whether or not their presence at the location is useful or necessary. Second, remove unnecessary items as soon as possible. Place those that cannot be removed immediately in red tag area so that they can be easily removed later on. And third, keep the working floor clear of materials except for those that are used in production. The second S stands for set in order. It is putting all necessary items in the optimal place for fulfilling their functions in the workplace. The goal here is to make the workflow smooth and easy. Following steps are followed to implement this goal. First, arrange workstation in such a way that all toolings or equipments are in close proximity, in an easy to reach spot, and in a logical order adapted to work performed. Place components according to their uses, with the frequently used component being nearest to the workstation or workplace. Second, arrange all necessary items so that they can be easily selected for use. Make it easy to find and pick up necessary items. Third, assign fixed location for the items. Use clear labels, marks or hints so that items are easily returned to the correct location and so that it is easy to spot missing items. The third S stands for shine. It is sweeping or cleaning and inspecting the workplace, tools and machinery on the regular basis. The goal at this stage are as follows. First, improve the production process efficiency and safety, reduce waste, prevent errors and defects. Second, keep the workplace safe and easy to work in. Third, keep the workplace clean and pleasing to work in. Fourth, when in place, anyone not familiar to the environment must be able to detect any problem within 50 feet in 5 seconds. Following steps are followed to implement this stage. First, clean the workplace and equipment on a daily basis or at another appropriate high frequency cleaning interval. Second, inspect the workplace and equipment while cleaning. The fourth S stands for standardize, and it is to standardize the process used to sort, order and clean the workplace. The goal here is to establish procedures and schedules to ensure repetition of first 3S practices. Following steps are followed to implement this stage. First, develop a work structure that will support the new practices and make it a part of daily routine. Second, ensure everyone knows their responsibilities of performing, sorting, organizing and cleaning. Third, use photos and visual controls to help keep everything as it should be. Fourth, review the status of 5S implementation regularly using audit checklists. Fifth, have self-discipline. And sixth, use shadow boards. These have tools outline and workers' movement on production floor. The last S stands for sustain, which is to sustain the developed process by self-discipline of the workers. It also translates to do without being told. The goal in this stage is to ensure that the 5S approach is followed. Following steps are followed to implement this stage. First, organize training sessions. Second, perform regular audits to ensure that all defined standards are being implemented and followed. Third, implement improvements whenever possible. Workers' inputs can be very valuable for identifying improvements. And fourth, when issues arise, identify their causes and implement the change necessary to avoid recurrence. In section B, we will be discussing the ISO 9000 series. Before we start this section, it is important for us to understand what an ISO is. ISO is the International Organization for Standardization. It is made up of national standards institutes from countries large and small, industrialized and developing, in all regions of the world. ISO develops voluntary technical standards which add value to all types of businesses operation. They contribute to making the development, manufacturing and supply of products and services more efficient, safer and cleaner. They make trade between countries easier and fairer. ISO standards also serve to safeguard customers and users in general of products and services, as well as to make their life simpler. ISO develops only those standards which are required by the market. Published under the designation of international standards, ISO standards represent an international consensus on the state of the art in the technology concerned. ISO is an independent body that is responsible for making rules and regulations. The body is responsible for framing policy and regulation for every industry in the sector, be it in customer industry, hospitality industry, and any industry that is under the umbrella. The purpose of getting ISO accreditation approval is to set up common standards which will be in accordance with the international standards. However, even though ISO frames the policies, it does not directly issue any certifications. For that, there are third-party establishments. For example, following are some names of accreditation or certification bodies that provide ISO certification in India: BV, BSI, TUV Sud, TUV Nord, DNV, SGS, Intertek, etc. ISO certification can be a useful tool to add credibility by demonstrating that your product or service meets the expectation of your customers. For some industries, certification is a legal or contractual requirement. The ISO 9000 family of quality management system is a set of standards that helps organizations to ensure that they meet customers and other stakeholders' needs within legal and regulatory requirements related to product or service. ISO 9000 deals with the fundamental of quality management systems, including the 7 quality management principles that underlie the family of standards. ISO 9001 deals with the requirements that organization wishing to meet the standard must fulfill. Third-party certification bodies provide independent confirmation that organizations meet the requirement of ISO 9001. Over 1 million organizations worldwide are independently certified, making ISO 9001 one of the most widely used management tools in the world today. ISO 9000 was first published in 1987 by ISO. It was based on BS 5750 series of standards from BSI that were proposed to ISO in 1979. The adoption of single quality assurance requirements, that is ISO 9000, leads to cost saving throughout the supply chain by reducing the administrative burden of maintaining multiple sets of quality manuals and procedures. The ISO 9000 series are based on 7 quality management principles. Principle 1. Customer focus. Organizations depend on their customers and therefore should understand current and future customer needs, should meet customers' requirements and strive to exceed customers' expectations. Principle 2. Leadership. Leaders establish unity of purpose and direction of the organization. They should create and maintain the internal environment in which people can become fully involved in achieving the organization's objectives. Principle 3. Engagement of people. People or employees at all levels are the core of an organization. and their full involvement enables their abilities to be used for the organization's benefit. Principle 4. Process approach. A desired result is achieved more efficiently when activities and related resources are managed as a process. Principle 5. Improvement. Improvement of the organization's overall performance should be a permanent objective of the organization. Principle 6. Evidence-based decision making. Effective decisions are based on the analysis of data and information. And Principle 7. Relationship management. An organization and its external providers, that is suppliers, contractors, service providers, etc., are interdependent, and a mutual beneficial relationship enhances the ability of both to create value. ISO 9001 to 2015 Quality Management Systems Requirements is a document of approximately 30 pages available from the national standards of organization in each country. Only ISO 9001 is directly audited against for third-party assessment purposes. Contents of ISO 9001-2015 are as follows. Section 1 Scope, Section 2 Normative References, Section 3 Terms and Definitions, Section 4 Context of the organization, Section 5 Leadership, Section 6 Planning, Section 7 Support, Section 8 Operations, Section 9 Performance Evaluation, Section 10 Continual Improvement. Essentially, the layout of this standard is similar to the previous ISO 9001-2008 standard in that it follows the plan, do, check, act cycle in a process-based approach, but it is now further encouraging this to have risk-based thinking. Section 0.3.3 of the introduction. The purpose of the quality objectives is to determine the conformity of the requirement, customers and organizations, facilitate effective deployment, and improve the quality management system. Before the certification body can issue or renew a certificate, the auditor must be satisfied that the company being assessed has implemented the requirements of Section 4 to 10. Section 1 to 3 are not directly audited against, but because they provide context and definition for the rest of the standard, not that of the organization, their content must be taken into account. The standard no longer specifies that organization shall issue and maintain documented procedures, but ISO 9001-2015 requires the organization to document any other procedures required for its effective operations. The standard also requires the organization to issue and communicate a documented quality policy, a quality management system scope, and quality objectives. The standard no longer requires compliant organizations to issue a formal quality manual. The standard does require retention of numerous records as specified throughout the standard. New for 2015 release is a requirement for an organization to evaluate risk and opportunities, which are mentioned in section 6.1, and to determine internal and external issues relevant to its purpose and strategic direction, which are mentioned in section 4.1. The organization must demonstrate how the standards requirements are being met, while external auditor's role is to determine the quality management system's effectiveness. More detailed interpretation and implementation examples are often sought by organizations seeking more information in what can be a very technical area. Following are the features of ISO 9000 certification. An ISO 9001 certificate is not once and for all award but must be renewed at regular intervals recommended by the certification body, usually once in every 3 years. There are no grades of competence within ISO 9001. Either a company is certified, meaning it is committed to the method and model of quality management described in the standard, or it is not. In this respect, ISO 9001 certification contrasts with measurement-based quality systems. The ISO 9000 standard is continually being revised by standing technical committees and advisory group who receive feedback from those professionals who are implementing the standards. The ISO 9000 series has undergone various revisions. The first edition was published in 1987. ISO 9000 1987 had the same structure as UK standard BS 5750 with the three models for quality management systems, selection of which was based on the scope of activities of the organization. First, ISO 9001 1987, that was model for quality assurance in design, development, production, installation and servicing, was for companies and organizations whose activities included creation of new products. ISO 9002 1987 is model for quality assurance in production, installation and servicing, had basically same material as ISO 9001 but without covering the creation of new products. ISO 9003 1987 is a model for quality assurance in final inspection and test, covered only the final inspection of the finished product with no concern of how the product was produced. 1994 second edition. ISO 9000 1994 emphasized quality assurance via preventive actions instead of just checking the final product, and continued with required evidence of compliance with documented procedures. As with first edition, the downside was that companies tended to implement its requirement by creating shelf loads of procedure manuals and becoming burdened with the ISO bureaucracy. In some companies, the quality systems were actually being a hurdle for adapting and improving processes. 2000 third edition. ISO 9001-2000 replaced all three former standards of 1994 issue, that is ISO 9001, ISO 9002 and ISO 9003. Design and development procedures were required only if a company does in fact engage in creation of new product. The 2000 version sought to make a radical change in thinking by actually placing forefront the concept of process management, that is the monitoring and optimization of company's tasks and activities instead of just inspection of final product. The 2000 version also demanded involvement by upper executives in order to integrate quality into business administration and avoid delegation of quality functions to junior administration. Another goal was to improve effectiveness via process performance metrics, that is numerical measurements of effectiveness of tasks and activities. Exceptions of continual process improvement and tracking customer satisfaction was made explicit. The ISO 9000 requirements include: first, approve documents before distribution; second, provide correct version of documents at point of use; third, use of records to prove that requirements have been met; and fourth, develop the procedure to control your records. 2008 4th edition. ISO 9001-2008 in essence re-narrates ISO 9001-2000. The 2008 version only introduced clarification to the existing requirement of ISO 9001-2000 and some changes intended to improve consistency with ISO 14001. There were no new requirements. For example, in ISO 9001-2008, a quality management system being upgraded just needs to be checked to see if it is following the clarification introduced in the amended version. In 2012, the ISO celebrated 25 years of implementing ISO 9001 and concluded that it was necessary to create a new QMS model for next 25 years. They subsequently commenced the official work on creating a revision of ISO 9001, starting with the new QM principles. This movement was considered by important specialists in the field as beginning of new era in the development of quality management systems. As a result of intensive work from this technical committee, the revised standard of ISO 9001-2015 was published by ISO on 23rd September 2015. The scope of standard has not changed. However, the structure and core terms were modified to allow the standards to integrate more easily with other international management systems standards. The new ISO 9001-2015 management system standard helps ensure that customer gets reliable, desired quality goods and services. This further increases benefits for a business. The 2015 version is also less prescriptive than its predecessors and focuses on performance. This was achieved by combining the process approach with risk-based thinking and employing the plan to check act cycle at all levels in the organization. Some of the key changes include: first, high-level structure of 10 clauses is implemented. Now all new standards released by ISO will have this high-level structure. Second, greater emphasis on building a management system suited to each organization's particular needs. Third, a requirement that those at the top of an organization be involved and accountable, aligning quality with wider business strategy. Fourth, risk-based thinking throughout the standard makes the whole management system a preventive tool and encourages continuous improvement. Fifth, less prescriptive requirement for documentation. The organization can now decide what documented information it needs and what format it should be in. Sixth, alignment with other key management system standards through the use of common structure and core text. Seventh, inclusion of knowledge management principles. And eighth, quality manual and management representative are no longer mandatory. Two types of auditing are required to become registered to the standard: auditing by an external certification body, that is external audit, and audits by internal staff trained for this process, that is internal audits. The aim here is to have continual process of review and assessment to verify that the system is working as it is supposed to find out where it can improve, and to correct or prevent identified problems. It is considered healthier for internal auditors to audit outside their usual management line, so as to bring a degree of independence to their judgments. Proper quality management can improve business, often having a positive effect on investment, market shares, sales growth, sales margins, competitive advantage, and avoidance of litigation. According to ISO, the 2015 version of the standard brings the following benefits. First, by evaluating their context, organizations can define who is affected by their work and what they expect. This enables clearly to state business objectives and the identification of new business opportunities. Second, organizations can identify and address risks associated with their establishment. Third, by putting customers first, organizations can make sure that they consistently meet customers' needs and enhance customer satisfaction. This can lead to more repeated customers, new clients, and increased business for organization. Establishments work in more efficient way as all their processes are aligned and understood by everyone. This increases productivity and efficiency, bringing internal costs down. Fifth, establishments will meet necessary legal and regulatory requirements. And sixth, establishment can expand into new markets as some sectors and clients require ISO 9001 before doing businesses. Now we come to the last section of our presentation, that is ISO 14000 series. ISO 14000 is a family of standards related to environmental management that exists to help organizations first to minimize how their operations or processes negatively affect the environment, that is cause adverse changes to air, water or land. Second, comply with applicable laws, regulation and other environmental oriented requirements. And third, continually improve the above. ISO 14000 is similar to ISO 9000 quality management in that both pertains to the process of how the product is produced rather than the product itself. As with ISO 9001, ISO 14000 certification is performed by third-party organizations rather than being awarded by ISO directly. The requirements of ISO 14001 are an integral part of European Union's Eco-Management and Audit System, EMAS. In March 1992, BSI Group published the world's first environmental management system standard, BS 7750, as a part of response to growing concern about protecting the environment. Prior to this, environmental management has been a part of large systems such as responsible care. BS 7750 supplied the template for the development of ISO 14000 series in 1996, which has a representation from the ISO committee all over the world. As of 2017, more than 3 lakh certification to ISO 14001 can be found in 171 countries. The ISO 14000 family includes most notably the ISO 14001 standard, which represents the core set of standards used by the organizations for designing and implementing an effective environmental management system, EMS. Other standards in this series include ISO 14004, which gives additional guidelines for good EMS, and more specialized standards dealing with specific aspects of environmental management. The major objective of ISO 14000 series of norms is to provide practical tools for companies and organizations of all kinds looking to manage their environmental responsibilities. The ISO 14000 series is based on voluntary approach to environmental regulation. The series include ISO 14001 standard, which provides guidelines for the establishment or improvement of an EMS. The standard shares many common traits with its predecessor, ISO 9000, the International Standard for Quality Management, which served as a model for its internal structure, and both can be implemented side by side. As with ISO 9000, ISO 14000 acts both as an internal management tool and as a way of demonstrating a company's environmental commitment to its customer and clients. ISO 14001 defines criteria for an EMS. It does not state requirements for environmental performance, but rather maps out a framework that a company or organization can follow to set up an effective EMS. It can be used by any organization that wants to improve resource efficiency, reduce waste, reduce costs. Using ISO 14001 can provide assurance to company management and employees as well as external stakeholders that environmental impact is being measured and improved. ISO 14001 can also be integrated into other management functions and assists companies in meeting their environmental and economic goals. ISO 14001, like other ISO 14000 standards, is voluntary, with its main aim to assist companies in continually improving their environmental performance and complying with any applicable legislation. The organization sets its own targets and performance measures, and the standard highlights what an organization needs to do to meet those goals and to monitor and measure the situation. The standard does not focus on measures and goals of environmental performance, but of the organization. The standard can be applied to a variety of levels in the business, from the organizational level down to product and service level. ISO 40001 is also known as Generic Management System Standard, meaning that it is relevant to any organization seeking to improve and manage resources more efficiently and effectively. This includes: first, single site to large multinational companies; second, high risk companies to low risk services organization; third, the manufacturing, process and service industries including local governments; fourth, all industry sectors including public and private sectors; and fifth, original equipment manufacturers and their suppliers. All standards are periodically reviewed by ISO to ensure that they still meet market's requirement. The current version is ISO 14001:2015, and the certified organizations are given 3 years transition period to adapt their environmental management system to new edition of the standard. The new version of ISO 14001 focuses on improvement of environmental performance rather than the improvement of the management system itself. It also includes several new updates, all aimed at making environmental management more comprehensive and relevant to the supply chain. One of the main updates asks organizations to consider environmental impact during the entire life cycle, although there is no requirement to actually complete a life cycle analysis. Additionally, the commitments of top management and the methods of evaluating compliance have also been strengthened. Another significant change linked to ISO 14001 to the General Management System structure introduced in 2015, called the High Level Structure. ISO 9001 and 14001 uses the same structure, making implementation and auditing more uniform. The new standard also requires the holder of the certificate to specify risks and opportunities and how to address them. The basic principles of ISO 14001 are based on the well-known Plan Do Check Act PDCA cycle. ISO 14001 encourages a company to continually improve its environmental performance. Apart from the obvious, the reduction in actual and possible negative environmental impacts, this is achieved in 3 ways. First, expansion. Business areas increasingly get covered by the implemented EMS. Second, enrichment. Activities, products, processes, emissions, resources, etc. increasingly get managed by the implemented EMS. Third, upgrading. The structural and organizational framework of the EMS, as well as an accumulation of knowledge in dealing with business environment issues, is improved. Overall, the CI concept expects the organization to gradually move away from merely operational environmental measures towards a more strategic approach on how to deal with the environmental challenges. ISO 14001 was developed primarily to assist companies with a framework for better management control, which can result in reducing their environmental impact. In addition to improvements in performance, organizations can reap a number of economic benefits, including higher conformance with legislative and regulatory requirements by adopting the ISO standard. By minimizing the risk of regulatory and environmental liability fines and improving a company's efficiency, benefits can include a reduction in waste, consumption of resources, and operating costs. Secondly, as an internationally recognized standard, businesses operating in multiple locations across the globe can leverage their conformance to ISO 14001, eliminating the need for multiple registrations or certifications. Thirdly, there has been a push in last decade by customers for companies to adopt better internal control, making the incorporations of ISO 14001 a smart approach for long-term viability of businesses. There are many reasons that ISO 14001 should be potentially attractive to supply chain managers, including the use of voluntary standard to guide the development of integrated systems, its requirement for supply chain members in industries such as automotive and aerospace, the potential of pollution prevention leading to reduced cost of production and higher profits, its alignment with the growing importance of corporate social responsibility, and the possibility that an ISO registered system may provide firms with a unique environmental resource, capabilities, and benefits that lead to competitive advantage. Research on supply chain impact of ISO 14001 registration suggests that potential positive impacts might include more proactive environmental management, higher levels of communication, higher level of waste reduction and cost efficiency, better return on investment, higher levels of customer relationship management, fewer issues with the employees' health, and reduced number of safety accidents. The researchers concluded that ISO 14001 registration can be leveraged across supply chain for competitive advantages. Following is the list of ISO 14000 series standards, and in the slide the brief of what the particular standard represents is listed. For example, in ISO 14050, environmental management vocabulary terms and definition are provided. This was a brief introduction to the topic of quality assurance. Thank you for your audience. If you have any queries, kindly feel free to contact me on the following email. Thank you.